I hear you, and that's good.
Do you see you right there?
I see me.
Chava?
Hi,
Okay.
me.
If you
Hi,
see someone
you.
coming, you miss them?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'm gonna sit over here.
Oh, that's right. Julie's taking the class with us. Okay.
Yeah, listen.
Today's the end of the month of Cheshvan, or tomorrow is. It's the last day of Cheshvan. I'm trying to think if it's a 30 or 31 day, 30 or 29, 30 day. We could look in the executive calendar. I'm sure it has the Hebrew dates in there, but I'm taking a small detour because, I have to see what I have to hand out. Because it's, sorry. About Rosh Hodesh, teaching about the actual details. Okay, well, here I am. No way, girl. Impressive. Out of the house. Sorry, we're just getting more people. My friend Susan. Nobody. Do you know Deborah, Northbrook, and Annie? You know Lauren. Yes, yes. Okay. All right. If you could just look at the top question, I think you guys have the page, and if you don't, let me see what the top question is. You can fill it in, or you can just think about it. We're gonna always cycle back to this. What is your biggest question, biggest what or why within your Jewish knowledge? Because we can always work on this, and it's also part of the take this first. It's the way that I want to teach, which is, I don't see anybody else coming in. Coming back to getting our questions answered so that our Jewish life is more useful. I would say more useful, meaningful. Yeah, I don't see it. So you could either fill it in now. You don't have to. Okay. Below it is a bit of prayer. We spoke about it in the first class. The first one, Elokai Neshama, was really relating to what we were learning what we were reading at that time. And the second one, it occurred to me, I did this with my 10 and 11-year-old students. The second one, which is the blessing on learning Torah, which we say every morning. And so I thought, well, let's just put that in. We're not even learning about from where it comes. We're not learning about the whole usefulness and of tefillah, of prayer, and the historical significance and the historical, the history of how it came. We're not doing that. We're just learning about it. So you could ponder on the first question, which again, for those Zoomers is, I don't know if you have it. If you do have it, it's just Leslie and Missy. Okay, Missy, you could just listen, and Leslie, maybe she has it. Oh, okay. Anyway, it's just, what is your biggest question? The what or the why within your Jewish knowledge. Do you have an answer? Not off it. What is it? Belief. Oh, Liz is let me in. Oh, Liz is saying let her in. Okay, so Julie's. Okay, we've talked about that before. About Julie Crennan saying Amuna, which is her belief in God. She's working on. Anybody else have anything before? Okay. I always have the what? That it would be mine. That's why I put it there. I for me need to consistently unpack the history and the historical significance, why it's coming up, where it comes from. It bothers me tremendously. If I don't understand it, I feel like I can't do it. And sometimes I'll do things I don't understand, for sure. But I mean, many times I'll do things I don't understand. But for me, it's like I gotta go backwards and figure this out, because otherwise, it could sound like it's I don't want to say from outer space. I don't want to reference that horrible thing from that comedian. If anybody know about, we can get back to that, David Chappelle. But anyway, so for me, a lot of it is the what. We have some belief. Okay, so here we have real quickly, we talked about this and we read through it in the first class, which is Elokai Neshama. We read it through it on Shabbos. It's my Shabbos learning partner here. And do you guys want me to read it, or do you want to just look at it quickly? Elokai Neshama. Yeah. And you want it in Hebrew or English? I'm just reading English. Otherwise it's just my God, the soul you have given me is pure, tahor, pure. You created it, you formed it, and you breathed it into me, and you guard it while it is within me. I also like that part, that it gets guarded. It's like a daily basis to remember that it's not just I'm going to always have it, but that I it's being guarded within me on a consistent basis, because we say this every morning. So I'm acknowledging that you're doing this. One day you will take it from me and restore it to me in the time to come, which in Hebrew is olam haba. Maybe one day we'll get to that. As long as the soul is within me, I will thank you, Hashem, my God, and the God of my ancestors, master of all works, Lord of all souls. Blessed are you, Lord, who restores souls to lifeless bodies. And the only little comment I'll say here is that as long as the soul is within me, took on more significance when I had people in my life pass away. And it was like, oh, they're not here anymore. Or like just like from day 1 to day 2 to day 3 of somebody dying, before you even get to the end of Shiva, realizing like, oh, that's what that means. Because you realize that the aspect of someone being gone, and it hits you so hard. And then this took on more significance that, oh, this is really very important, that every day that it is within me and guarded within me, I could take care of it. It's taking care of me. We're going to watch out for it. That's just, yeah, Stacy, question. My soul. So this prayer is what I say alive. As long as the soul is within me, there's nobody, when you're dead, you cannot say this, the deceased. You have other things that happen when you're in Shemayim, when you go to the world to come, Does anybody here at Ellie's class on Zoom at 1:00? All right. Sometimes I want to go through, as I have not heard a lot of Eves. I do plan to hear Eves on Tuesday, or hopefully come. But Ellie was talking about the 3 things on which the world stands from Pirkei Avot, ethics of our fathers. Anyway, I'm not going to use that now. The other tefillah, the second prayer here, it's called blessing on the study of Torah. It's not blessing because we have the Torah, which is going to be slightly different. You hear that at a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, when a boy or girl come up to reading from the Torah. Okay. This one is Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvos tav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, our God, King of the universe, who has made us holy, as Asher Kiddushanu, with his commandments, and commanded us to delve into the words of the Torah. And if you look in your Siddur, like most of you have this one, I want to call it Orthodox, but I don't really like that, but it's just a certain organization where everything that's in it has a real strong transmission back to the times of the temple. But this is written this way because there is a commandment to stay within the Torah every day, to be involved in the understanding of it. And the way that we understand it is we learn about it. And so here we are delving or diving into the words of the Torah, and we're blessing the fact that we get to do that. Okay. And maybe at a future day, I can show you the other paragraphs that are after it that support it, that have Talmudic support actually from the Tanakh as to why this is a mitzvah for us. Okay. But we say this every morning. So I thought, let's just say this now because we're learning. And I put this next paragraph in. It's from Rochi Koval's book, one that I mentioned before, Conversations with God. I feel like all of us Jewish teachers out here in the in the English speaking world constantly refer to her book. Maybe when it gets translated into Hebrew, they'll start also. But she writes here, I know the Torah is so important, and sometimes I feel overwhelmed with the magnitude of it all. There's so much, and humans can't always understand what's in it or what it all means, or even what your expectations are of us. Still, I recognize that there is so much depth and beauty there, and that the true values that exist in the world today come from it. When I see the scroll in this beautiful velvet case, I'm overwhelmed with love and reverence. Please allow its words to be sweet for me. Allow my children to connect to it and recognize its value and centrality in our lives and in our faith. As I'm reading through this, I've read through this paragraph so many times, but I'm reading through it now in this context. I'm like, well, that's loaded. There's a lot going on just in this paragraph, which is just this contemporary. When I say contemporary, she's like younger than me, author writing about this. Does anybody have anything to say on this? Her take on what this means to her. Okay, here's the deal. Sometimes I don't think any of us at all times recognize that there's depth and beauty there. I think a lot of times we're either annoyed by it, or we're moving too quickly, or we don't understand it. So that it sort of hit me like, okay, got to focus on that. When I am at synagogue, I can't say that I'm always looking forward when they take out the Torah and staring at the beautiful velvet case Okay, I'm just laying it out there, folks, because I go almost every week. And I sometimes I'm mostly zoning out or trying to catch my page. It used to be that there was a little child attached at some point, and so Annie's got that. She can't really go through a show without people tugging on her. But anyway, so that's something also that when I read this, I think, oh, I wonder when I get to synagogue this week, if I could stare at when the Torah comes out of the Aron and think, what does she say? I am overwhelmed with love and reverence for the fact that the Torah is here and all of its values. What I do love is that it should be sweet for me and it should be sweet for, my family. I think we all, either we daven, we pray for that, or we're working on it by teaching it to our family, or we realize we blew it and we didn't teach this thing or that thing. So we're going to try now. I don't know. She's Shomer Shabbat, okay? And she davens in a mechitza minyan. I'm most certain that she kept the laws of family purity. In a minyan where there men's on one side, women on the other. That's one of those, or she does not, she keeps ruchi. Okay, the reason I said it like that is because she's observant, but if you would get to know her, when you get a chance to, because I think she's coming to Chicago. Her podcasts are called Out of the Orthodox. And she grew up Orthodox, but in her travels with her husband, they live in Cleveland. She's been through many, many interesting situations. She has children who are not Orthodox anymore, children that have tattoos. She has some that are. And so her scope on how to live with the beautiful Torah that Hashem gave us and how to keep it alive in her daily business it looks more like what we maybe are struggling with at times. Like, oh boy, how do I keep this relevant, or how do I keep this live, or how do I not get scared? She's a real person in it. So yes, the answer is yes. She's got the word Orthodox, but it's like, I think some of us who got to know her, it's a real attainable, relatable.
Non-judgmental. She's like you. She's like very relatable.
Relatable. Yeah. Right, which is why that paragraph's in there and why so many of us use this as an educational piece, this book. All right, we're going to take this sheet and put it aside. If you didn't get sheets, because I seem to have slipped back into my old ways, which is preparing everything and getting it done 20 minutes before class starts. I go there? Okay.
Hi.
Okay, I'm going to tell you now what's next. Oh, that's the outline. I'm going to pass this around. I know we are learning from the Infinite Light by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, and we are going to hopefully get back there. If not today, we will. But it was important to me since it's coming up, which is Rosh Hodesh. Oh, here, I could have just heard Annie. And put the rest. Okay. So, and Julie just emailed this out in the last 10 minutes or whatever since this class. If you want to go look it up, you can. If not, you can just listen and go along. Why is Jill writing here? Oh, it's okay, Jill. I actually knew one too because I forgot to bring the book. All right. I was in the synagogue in Shul this week, and they said what's called Birchat HaChodesh, which is the blessing of the new month. And it was on my mind, and I know that on Monday, Eva's running a Rosh Hodesh event for women and maybe girls. I don't know, maybe girls, just women. I don't know. Okay, tomorrow night, Thursday night. Yes, Thursday night is Rosh Hodesh, the first day of the month of, anybody? Kislev. Very good. Bing, bing, bing. Prizes for all you all who knew that. No, I don't get prizes for that. I could throw Hanukkah candles at you. See, that was my hint to what's coming up in the month of Kislev. All right. I think that Rosh Hodesh is, you could read the details very quickly and just breeze on by. Make sure you knew it was Rosh Chodesh. Again, breeze on by. Because like what to do? Okay, it's here. It happens. Sometimes Eve will hopefully have a monthly event. I went to it. That's it, right? And then it'll be the second day of the Hodesh and the third day. But Rosh Hodesh is a mitzvah. It's the first mitzvah that was given to the Jewish people in the Torah when they left Egypt in the Torah. Well, they got the Torah after they left Egypt, but it has tremendous significance for the strength of the Jewish people, for the understanding about the elasticity of not just the people, but of the Torah and the oral law, the whole Tanakh, and how it is traveled with us all throughout the ages, and it is alive, and it has kept us alive. And a deal of that, a great deal of that comes from just this one mitzvah of Rosh Hodesh, which maybe I knew in the back of my head when I was learning or whatever, picked up along the years, but it's only because of this class that I dive into some of this literature myself. And I'm like, oh, wow, that makes sense. You know, that's that what I was telling you, or like, how do we get here? It is. Question.
Better.
So Julie's asking if it's the first one, would that make it the most special or more special than the other ones? And if it's the first one, well, gosh darn, we better follow that one. Really the way you follow it is you just say different tefillot. Otherwise it comes and it goes and you mark it. You really say it actually the Shabbos before when you mention this coming week on this day and this time is going to be this month. And then they say blessings that it should be for good, and not for bad, and it should be prosperous, and we should be prosperous, and we should be healthy and not unhealthy. I mean, there's just a set of blessings which chose not to give you because it's too much for now. And it happens every Shabbos before the new month. Okay, let us learn a little bit about the Jewish calendar. I will watch my time because I have all these different things I wanted to get to. All right, so this is the what. Is anybody here like a history person? They like the history or yeah? Are there the no history people here? Like I hate history? No? Okay, because Hadassah told me she hates history. You can't figure it out. I'm like, right? No, but if you were sitting in a class, they were just going through the dates and the names and the ages, you would be like a little bit rolling in back. I mean, anyway, I think it's interesting because it's so alive to when you're learning your Jewish life. It's very alive. Jewish history, and then you know, in addition to that, not history of the world, because we live within all these different civilizations. So it is curious of the mind, like what was going on during that time, so that we end up here at this time. I should turn this way. I feel like I'm going only to here. Okay, we're going to start a little bit the Jewish calendar, the Jewish moon. I'm probably going to read it myself because I like to skip over stuff. And this is again from Rabbi Mordechai Becher's book. Gateways to Judaism. So the sun, the moon, and the stars, the Jewish calendar. Measuring and marking the passage of time is a universal human preoccupation. At least 40 different calendars are in use around the world today. The most widely used systems are the solar calendar. Yeah, everybody knows that. Yeah. Based on the cycle of the sun, and the lunar calendar, so separate, based on the cycle of the moon. Because of its orbit around the earth, okay, this stuff I didn't want to read through. This is all science, moving on. Okay, you figured out, but it's about the days, you can read through it. Bottom, the seasons of the year are dependent upon the Earth's rotation around the sun. So now we've got the days of the year, and we've got the seasons. So one's affected by the moon and one's affected by the sun, right? So the lunar date, if you were keeping just a lunar calendar, will drift until over the course of 33 years, it occurs in each of the 4 seasons. So if you are not keeping what we keep in the Jewish calendar, which is the combination, your seasons will drift, and that helped me understand Ramadan. Just because I don't know, it was like, oh, it's this month, oh, it's that month, that I'm so used to a set month or a set season. It's in Islam, I don't know what it celebrates, but they don't eat during the day.
It's their holiday.
Yeah. It's their holy day. It's like their high holidays, holy days. Okay, that was just my biggest. The main example that came to my head is what would it look like to have just a lunar calendar, and if you have just a solar calendar, which is our calendar. So spring break always comes in March. You know, I mean, I don't mean spring break, but the beginning of the winter always comes. We celebrate winter holidays when January, February, March. Like it's holidays are set by the season. It's not totally true. Holidays really set by the day. Thanksgiving's not. Thanksgiving switches and always in the same season, but Christmas is always the same day. So Easter though switches. Easter switch, but it's always in the same season. It's always in spring. That's by the help of the solar calendar. All right, let me just see here. Let's go to the Jewish calendar, the next paragraph. The Jewish calendar, I would say, however, is a luni solar system. I like that they didn't say solar loony, because when I was saying it backwards to myself, I like that didn't sound good. But luni solar sounds so much better. Oh, it just sounds so Looney Tunes. It's not though. Looney solar system, combining elements of both the lunar and solar calendars. Okay, bing, light bulb for me when I was starting off. Didn't know any of this. Not that we would really. I mean, I don't even know if my kids, yeah, I think my kids know this from school. Okay, the Jewish calendar scrupulously follows the phases of the moon, but it also incorporates features that ensure that the festivals always occur in the same seasons. So Passover, for example, always falls in the spring, Sukkot always in the autumn. In contrast to the solar calendar, the first day of the Jewish month coincides with the first appearance of the new moon, which is why it could be confusing if you're not paying attention to, or also not only bound by, the solar calendar by living in America, but you're also bound by the Jewish calendar, which makes you think a little bit like, oh, got to pay attention to this, got to pay attention to that. Which is why it falls in the middle of, it falls whenever it falls. And you're like, oh, wait, no, it's like tomorrow. It's the 4th of November. When you see the first sliver of the moon, you want to see, yeah, right. So the 15th of the month, which is when several of the holidays are, is like when it's the fullest, which hence is well, it's starting to wax. This term of the moon waxes and wanes. Wax. The waxing is when it's starting to grow, and the waning is when it's starting to decrease. Okay. All right. Good question now. Let's see here. Where am I? In contrast to the solar calendar, the first day of the Jewish month coincides, like we just said, with the appearance of the new moon. And there are complex formulae regulating the periodic adjustment of the calendar to coordinate the cycle of the moon with the cycle of the seasons. Not going to spend so much time on that. I've read this part so many times, and it's actually outside. It's taken a lot of time to understand. Well, the way that the new month was determined was by eyewitness in the land of Israel. And when somebody saw, and I think we're going to get to that here somewhere, when somebody saw the new moon approach, maybe they were out far east in the land of Israel, so they would make their way towards the temple to let them know. And then they had to have 2 witnesses at least that saw it. And then huge flames and lights, but at the time, huge flames were lit so that the whole land of Israel knew that the new month was a coming, or was here actually. And that happened even when there wasn't a temple. They were still working with figuring out, when we were living in Babylon, after the Purim story. And then we got back to Israel, and then we were there for another 400 years, more or less, until we got kicked out. And that Hanukkah happened in the second time. And then we were kicked out during the times of the Romans, and then we've been out ever since. So the Jewish leaders, from us having to leave at the first exile, which was Jewish history, we'll get there. But as we were leaving and coming back, the Jewish court system was still determining and figuring out, according to the moon, according to when the new moon is coming. And it could be off a day or 2. It could look like a new moon to them, but they weren't sure. It was only after the complete destruction and us being exiled until we got back into the land of Israel in 1948. So exiled during the Roman times, which is when the actual calendar was set, and it set for the ages. That is the part I do not understand. That's where I was getting to. All the science and the mathematical computation that they had to go through, that they understood according to the laws from Moshe, from Har Sinai, is way beyond me. So that is, don't ask me how that happens. Just know it happens, that it's been set. Because sometimes I would think, well, I don't understand, like, how do you know that in the next 7 years, or we look at 12 years when my son's bar mitzvah is going to be? What if something changed? I don't know, but it was known, and it was set forevermore from after the destruction and us living outside of the land of Israel in exile. Okay, let's see here. You could, oh, really, so terrible. Julie's asking a question, everybody on Zoom. Go ahead. Oh, Israel's. Oh,
Israel?
when this mitzvah was able to be kept because we had the temple, we're living in Israel, it was all according to what happened in Jerusalem. And from Jerusalem, the message was sent out to the land of Israel. Okay. And I bet actually after the first exile and coming back, the message had to be run off to Babylon, to Bavel, to let them know, because that's where that was like the first outside of Israel community. Out of Babylon, Babel, which is where the story of Persia, that's what it's called, Persia. So that was what it was. That's from where it's determined is Jerusalem. Do you mean that if you're living today in Israel, is that what you're asking?
Like, for us, in the
Oh,
is it
oh,
on the Israel,
okay.
or is it-
It's not about actually, go ahead. You could. Okay, you could. We could like co-teach for today.
No.
I don't think that anybody cares. All right, Julie's question was for Zoom, something, I could just answer it.
The 2 day, the 2 day.
Oh.
Is the calendar based on
Did I record it?
Israel and Jerusalem? Because
It says it here. All right. Once you got your within a day or two of seeing the new moon, and the rabbinical court or the leading court of the land at the time in Israel got the witnesses that said that they saw the new moon. So then that day was the first day. So on whichever day the holiday falls, like Rosh Hashanah, the Torah tells us is on the first day of Tishrei. And it also told us that Yom Kippur is on the 10th day of Tishrei. And we know that Sukkot is on the 5th day of, the 15th of Tishrei also. A lot of 15. Shavuot is on the 6th day of Sivan. So that was one day, and they knew what it was because you kept getting information as to when the new moon was. So once the new moon was, that's day one. And you knew that on the 6th day of Sivan, you're going to celebrate Shavuot. That's when you're living in the land of Israel. The problem is that once we started to have communities outside of the land of Israel, they're not going to get the message on time because there was no telephone. Oh, the internet, I was just thinking of telephone, or there was no mail. But you know what? They could have run. I don't know. You get like that. What's his name? That rabbit in the cartoon is running really, really. Was that the one? Roger Rabbit? Roadrunner. The Roadrunner is going to bring the message to Babel and tell them. And that is how you end up with a 2-day holiday outside the land of Israel. And we could ask here briefly, why do we need it anymore? Because I just told you that the calendar is fixed, and we will always know when the 1st of the month is, which day, and the 15th and the 30th, and you'll always know when the 10th day is, Yom Kippur. You could look it up for the next 20 years on a calendar. You could just type in, and you could type in 2029, I'd like to know when Yom Kippur is because I want to go on a cruise. I don't want to go over Yom Kippur. I don't know, something like that. So that, or it's for the people who can't get their act together. And so day one, you're just out to lunch, like Passover. Did not pay attention. We've talked about this. I mean, a little bit paid attention, but a little bit, I'm falling asleep in the back of my head, and I just had 2 glasses of wine. But the second, I hadn't finished the Seder, 4 glasses of wine. The second day, though, totally present. I'm ready to go. They're out to lunch. I'm ready to go second day because like I'm done. I went, got my sleep, okay, Annie. Diaspora. Yeah.
Back in the day, they needed extra time to get the word out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question, why do we still do it then?
We still do things today after the fall of the temple, and then the recording down of what we only learned by mouth or a law. We learned all of our Judaism, the Torah that we learned at the time, had to be recorded because it became aware within the first 100 years of the temple being destroyed that we weren't getting it back. Like within 70 years of the first temple, they'd already started building the second temple. Like it was a very short exile in Persia. But that second exile, the way that it happened with the Romans, the leaders of the time knew that this is going to be much harder. And so I'm concerned we're going to lose this. and people are starting to diasporize. I don't know what you say, like move farther and farther and farther, and they, I want to say something, but I'm trying to think how to say it. You know this phrase, the writing's on the wall. What does the writing on the wall mean?
Inevitable.
You know it's coming. It's inevitable. So that is the writing on the wall. And that actually comes from the prophets, by the way. I think it's in Daniel. The book of Daniel. I have to look it up. Yeah, I don't think it's David's story. Look at me, I'm confusing my Dalids. I'm pretty sure it's Daniel. But we do things that are custom. Like I think that it's possible that, as I'm thinking this out now, as you're asking, like in the first 100 years after the second temple destroyed, maybe we thought we were going back. I mean, the last time we got back with it, and then the second 200 years, well, I'm not going to move that far. And then the 300 and 400, I mean, by the year 500 common era, we were living much further away. And so those are the times when you start, like, I think we're going to keep the customs we have for fear of losing what they were about. Okay. And then time went on and certain customs have not been let go of, like the 2-day, except if you make Aliyah. You pull Ali and David and you get out of Dodge. If you leave America and you move to Israel, once you're permanently settled in the land of Israel, I don't understand the why. I see your head cocked to the side, like why? You only have to keep the 1 day. And if you're visiting for the year, most people keep the 2 days, which is really hard. I think I mentioned that my first class. You don't really live there. I'm not going to talk to that. I don't really understand that. I'm sure I could find out and Google it and they'll tell me. Okay, let's just go back to page 82, because maybe we'll just do this quickly since we talked a lot about it. Stop here and then, yeah, okay. In the Torah, as well as modern Hebrew, the days of the week are designated by the number. So when Hashem created the first day, it was called first day, Yom Rishon. That's how it's said in Hebrew. Second day was Yom Sheni, so forth and so forth. And on the seventh day, it is Yom Shabbat. It doesn't say Yom Shavi'i. Shavi'i is 7 in Hebrew. It's called Yom Shabbat. Okay. Yeah.
Is the first day Monday?
Oh, the first day is Sunday.
It is Sunday. Okay.
Yeah, first day in the Jewish calendar is a Sunday, and also in Israel, if you live there or visit there, your first day of the week is Sunday. That is why my son goes to school on Sunday. That is exactly why. It's also because there is a mitzvah to learn Torah every day, and so it's not like just a day off, you know. Which I'm not saying that Sundays are really a day off. Our kids are busy, but yeah, could he have just a learning partner? He could, but that's the way the Jewish school system is set up in where my kids go to school. Good question though. My son goes to Hadassah doesn't, which is really she's thrilled. Let's just to go to school on Sunday. Some do, but not at my school, not my daughter's school.
Okay.
However, she just took on this chesed project, and we've talked a little bit about going to this chesed kitchen, but she's helping giving out that food that's being distributed to schools. And so it's a 4-hour, and she came home exhausted and filthy. It was just giving out milks and food, and it was for 4.5 hours. So I'm like, no, she loved it. Yeah, did she love it? Well, she loved it. She's going back again. She has to get up, she has to leave at 6:50 in the morning because it starts at 7:30 a.m. I'm like, wow, I have no interest. Anyway, originally months were also designated only by the number rather than by the name, which we're going to talk to on the third page, beginning with the month in which the Exodus took place, which means the story of Passover and the leaving of Egypt, which makes the first month of the year, is really not Tishrei, where Rosh Hodesh is. It's really the first, when we count the months of the year, the first month of the year is the month of Nisan, which is when the leaving of Egypt happened, which is in the spring. Now we have names for the months, which surprisingly are not in Hebrew. I know the names of the months are Persian, Babylonian, Babylonian names. But why? Yep. How about Greek? How about the fact that the Greeks are the ones that well, they took, well, that's a whole other story, but they took they actually are the ones that created this chapter in the Torah. Like we go from this chapter to this chapter. There were no chapters. There's no chapter in a Torah scroll, just moves on. And that comes from their influence on the Jews. We are constantly influenced by the world around us. One of the things as Jews, I mean, obviously we are as people, but I'm saying the Jewish part of us is, I got my American part and I had my Sirius radio and I heard the Virginia race came up and then Chicago stuff came up. I mean, I had that going on today, but I also had to make sure I had my class together. I said my morning tefillot. I mean, I got my Jewish life going at the same time as my, what do you call it, American life? Going like this all the time. I listened to our teacher, when I say our, because Missy's here. Oh, maybe she's not here anymore. Oh, there she is. Anyway, we listened to our teacher, Rebbitzin Pavlov, Holly Pavlov, and she was just talking about this constant having a daily basis to reattach yourself. And if you stray off and you've got a moment where you strayed off, and that there were people that according to this author from one of the books she's learning from, that they were always in their Judaism at all times, every single thing they did, they stood up and they took a breath and they said, thank you, Hashem, for the breath. Obviously, they said the set brachas that but like, I don't know, wind could pass and their hair could fall into a beautiful place and they could thank Hashem for the wind. She was just giving examples and I'm like, wow, I did not live there. I try to remember to live there. We talk about this a lot. I try, and I've got my Rosh Hodesh to remind me, and I've got the Mitzvah that I have to do, and I've got my learning, and I've got, blah, blah, blah. But so there are a lot of things that influence us throughout our Jewish experience in civilization. And it is something, in addition to everything else, the keeping of the Jewish calendar and the counting of the first month that pulls us back in and keeps us Jewish. I have one more handout.
What year?
No? You want to ask me a question of that?
Started reading it.
Good, that'll go on. Oh, you know what? I'll tell you what, I don't want you to buy every book on the planet. Every time I like to teach from different sources, because if I start through a whole chapter, some of it's over my head, some of it's not interesting, some of it's like not according to what I wanted to do. Here, you got it. Here, Deborah. Okay, here we go. I thought she had more, sorry. So,
Can I ask my question?
well, hold on one second. That's why you've got parts of different chapters, and why I say keep them, and we may add to them. And if you want to buy the book and you want to know, I'll tell you. I think I've hopefully told you, but it's partially why we're not going through an entire thing together the way some other of your teachers are doing. Yes.
So are all the Jewish months,
Yes.
Or that they add a year, they add a month.
they have
Adding a month is not the same.
Isn't that what? The
The leap year. It actually, he talks about it here. That is a mathematical calculation so that over the 33-year period,
Oh,
when you lose a couple days because of the lunar solar combination, you want to make sure that you still keep your holidays in the right season. And so you add on another month, but there's only a certain amount of them that happen. Like, I think it's like 7 or 9 in a 17-year period in the Jewish calendar. That's adding of Adar. But
That's my birthday, by the way, in dark too.
oh, right.
So
That's, if you have a second of Adar, yeah, that's a funny story that you could not exist if you're in a certain year. I mean, obviously you just switch your birthday back to the regular Adar. There's a funny story about that, like when they have a second Adar, that you could have your older kid born in Adar Sheni, in the second Adar. And then you have another kid that's born in the year where there's no leap year. Then you get to a year where there's no leap year again, and I did the reverse. Basically, your younger kid to be older than your older kid because of the way that the birthdays fall out. Do you all understand that?
Yeah.
It's just a funny thing that happens. Some people make a big deal of it. It's written down there. I don't know the exact number. Hold on.
Cause the leap year occurs like a certain interval within 19 years.
Oh, it was 19 years?
But then the top is.
Okay, Annie's asking a question that I have no interest or ability to really answer. Every time, Annie, I have read, maybe the reason it took me so long to get this information to Julie is that I have been reading this since Shabbos.
You didn't
Because
even answer.
I'll get there. And I'm like, I can't, the math and the numbers, they just, and the calculations, but maybe you're good at that. And you may like find that interesting, so read it. But I just celebrate Rosh Hodesh, I'm giving Rosh Hodesh, I'm giving you, I can't give, I don't know, go ahead.
No, when I was year it is, we're saying about starting with Adam.
Oh, yeah.
And so when the sun had- according to Jewish calculation, Abraham was born in the year 1948.
Okay.
I don't get that.
At the end of the paragraph,
1812.
I was trying to like snip and only paste paragraphs, which wasn't working. So you got the whole page. I was trying to avoid this. I'm trying to avoid this paragraph.
Take a Sharpie?
Yes, totally. Stacy. Okay. What year is it right now? 2021. But what year is it? The other part of you inside, it's also counting. It's not easy to be a Jew. It's great. Not supposed to say that, but I mean like 5782. So since the creation of the human being, that happened 5,782 years ago. Okay. And time was counted, and we know time was counted since then. And we know the year that Abraham was born. And when you see 1948 here, yeah, that's before the Common Era. That's, you know what before the Common Era is, BCE? That's before BC.
Right.
Correct. And then we have after death, which is not relevant to us at all because he is not our, figurehead. I mean, I know it's what we say, but it's really not necessary. And I mean, so we say Common Era, which is what we're in now, and before the Common Era. Okay, so he was in 1948, and if you look it up, I'm 54. So
Well, he's younger than my
80
mom.
yeah, it's not 1948 Common Era. It's 1948. So you were born, so take 54 and subtract it from 82, and that was the year you were born in, 57 something. You understand what year you were born in? I don't know, do whatever your math is, okay? Okay. Putting this down. Just real quickly. Okay. Yeah, it is your writing. Rosh Hodesh, Kislev, I couldn't get it out of there. I don't know what to do. The new month, the first month, the first of the month of Kislev, which happens to be tomorrow night, Thursday, November 4th. I didn't really review it, but Jewish days start at sundown. So that's why I'm saying Rosh Hodesh is Thursday, November 4th, but it's the first of the month actually happens after nightfall. So anyway, Kislev is a Babylonian name for the month. It is referred to in Tanakh as the 9th month. That's all it's called. There's no name for it, just the 9th month. Since it is 9 months from counting the month of Nisan, the first month where it's Passover. And then I just put a little Hebrew so you could see Hodesh. The word Hodesh means month, which is also from the root word Chadash in Hebrew. Same letters, Chet, Dalet, Shin. You see that? But if you change the vowels around, you get the word new. When I was living in Israel, they would have like a new flavor of bisli. I don't even know what to say bisli is. It's super salty and MSG, and it's like it's like a I don't know. It's a really good salty Israeli snack, and they have a lot of different flavors. Bisli is what it's called. So sometimes they come out with a new flavor, and it'd be like Chadash Flava. I don't know what flavor is, and I'm like, when I could read that, when I first was able to read because they don't use a lot of vowels. You don't need it when you're fluent in Hebrew and reading Hebrew. So it was just a Chet, Dalet, Shin. I'm like, oh, Chadash looks like the same word as Hodesh. Oh, like. Think why is Chadash and Chodesh connected just from the etymology of it? New flavor of bisli, new month. Chodesh, Chadash. Okay, and Rosh, I think most people know is your head, so it's the first. the top, the leader, the head of the month. The first commandment the Jews were given as a people is the mitzvah of Rosh Hodesh, as said in Shmot and Exodus, the book of Exodus, the second book, and the Torah. And Hashem said to Moshe, in the land of Egypt, this month is for you, the head of the months. First, it is for you among the months of the year. So it sounds. You have to count it, and then you have to recognize it. Okay, the recognizing of it needs a blessing in order for it to be a mitzvah. Your mitzvah is recognizing it, and that would probably be it, because you don't say you say different prayers on Rosh Hodesh. It's altered a little bit, the morning service. They add on the second, they add on Musaf. I'm just going to talk to Susan if you're all following along. And they also add on Hallel, which are Psalms of praise, which is also added on because it's a kind of like a minor, it's not a minor holiday. That would be Hanukkah and Yom and Purim, but yes, but you recognize it with and also with certain tefillah prayers. I think that if you were living in the times when they were the calendar was not set, you were like watching out and waiting for it, aware that it was a mitzvah, and that you have to. I mean, you're actively living with trying to figure out when Rosh Chodesh was. Yeah, we're not. We're just like open the executive calendar. Okay. So then, isn't this a strange first commandment? That's what Julie asked earlier. You'd think the development of the calendar would only come after the establishment of the basic fundamentals, like, for example, the 10 Commandments. But number one, there was a couple questions. Why is celebrating the new moon important to Jews? We've talked a bit. Well, we don't talk about that one. 2, why does the Torah consider the process of establishing the new month as a major breakthrough in creating a nation? 3, what was wrong with the solar calendar that everyone else had been using? And 4, what is the significance of basing the Jewish calendar on the moon? So we've talked a bit about we talked a little bit about this. I just have some examples here. This was my attempt to start to understand Rosh Hodesh because it's coming up. And then we can circle back. There's so much more to learn. Like I kind of got lost in a rabbit hole of what is Rosh Hodesh, because it's considered a holiday, just a celebration just for women. Okay. That's why Eve does. Well, a lot of people. I say Eve because she leads the L'chaim Center, but you barely heard of Rosh Chodesh? Well, it's not like Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur. And it's not like Hanukkah, which we all know. I mean, I wouldn't say we all know. You have to look at your calendar with Hanukkah. Well, there's a couple reasons, but one of the reasons was the way that how the Jewish women in the desert lived and kept the Torah and had maybe at times more strength than the men did. And there's different stories of that. And so for that, Rosh Hodesh, which is a constant getting to like celebrate, is for you. And also a woman is more aware of time, is more aware of like the changing of the cycles of, I want to turn this off now, but we're supposed to call Yaakov, our son, every night at 9:30. And even if he doesn't call us, we call him. So I call him at what time? 9:30. You bet I do. And I get home and I say, I spoke to him, or did you speak to him? And what does my husband say?
I'm waiting for him.
Oh yeah. Like you should see me at 9:20 p.m. Like, okay, 10 minutes to go. And he has no interest. Well, last night he gave us a tour of Hadass and I a tour of his dorm, which I've never seen. And I felt a little bad because his roommates were in the back. Thank God they were dressed. They were like doing whatever. He's showing it. So, but I call him 9:30. And my husband, the last 2 nights was like, yeah, I don't know. I was busy. I'm like, what? So some of that might just be being a mom versus being a dad. I don't know what kind of caretaker you are. It's really actually not fair to say that because there are some dads who are better caretakers than moms. But I do think that having to pay attention to our cycle for so many different reasons, not just because of the laws of family purity, just because, you want to know what's going on. keeps us more in tune. That is some of the thought about keeps us more in tune, and so therefore it's something for just women. Now it's not just women. Everybody's like Susan asked. We all go through every month. If you're paying attention to the calendar, especially when you need to know a bar about mitzvah, or when you're I don't know when you were married or when somebody's yard site. There's one. Oh, anniversaries. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, what- oh yeah. So a yard site. So celebrating the death of a loved one is important also if that's something that you celebrate, if you pay attention to. I won't really call it celebrating it. Okay, in the last couple minutes, I just want to show you these two things that I found that are what like the whole piece of it. I'm you see me. I'm taking excerpts of, but this is Medrash, which I will go. We are going to get to this. What does it mean Tanakh, the books of the Torah, and what is the Gemara or the Talmud, and how is that important? But this is I know, and again, that's something else. When I get to it, that I have to read over and over and over again, and it's better if I just have a list in front of me. I can never remember what's where when. I mean, I got the 5 books of the Torah. That one I got, but once you start talking about, okay, so there's the Mishnah.
Yeah.
And then there's the Gemara, and that Medrash is also in with the what was passed down to us. Okay, part of the oral law. No, let's not do that now. Let's hold off on that. Okay, let's just read the Medrash here. Let's just read the Medrash on that one commandment you talked about, which is that it should be for you this month. Same thing that we read earlier. This month shall mark for you the first of the months. The Holy One, blessed be He, said to Israel, up until now, the keeping of calendar time was in my hands, up until the time that the Jews left Egypt, okay? And this commandment was given. From this point onwards, though, I give it over to your hands, your authority. If you designate a new month, then it will be so. If you do not, then it will not. In any case, this month shall be for you. Give an idea why it says that up until this point, I count time, and now it's up to you to help me count and create time. It is because we're the ones that had to spot the new moon. If nobody was paying attention and we weren't partners with Hashem to help keep our calendar alive, we would maybe never spot the new moon, and I wouldn't go over and tell the Sanhedrin or the leaders of the Beit HaMikdash, and maybe you get it a couple days off, and then Rosh Hashanah would be in the wrong time. Like Hashem is saying, I am allowing you to be part of your world. You're not really creating the world, I created it, but you are partners, and this partners in creation comes up so many times in our Jewish learning, and I mean, the first one to mind is having a baby. Like Hashem didn't have my baby, that would be a different religion. Oh. Okay. I had my baby. I had my baby. And Hashem didn't have my baby with me. Ken did, right? Like, I mean, okay. So anyway, but this is creating with God. I mean, that's a whole beautiful story. Oh, Stacy, I love you. Sorry, who's here? I don't know why you guys know Stacy. There are 2019 trips people that I know why you know Stacy here. Okay, love it. All right, so let's just move on to the last one because it's 2 o'clock and then we can stay for questions. This is how it goes. Here's how having the ability to not only count time but pay attention to time, but to be a sort of a master of it, if we could call it that, as people newly freed. Oh, and how Rosh Hodesh is attached to to the Exodus from Egypt, okay? Which I didn't know. I never think about that. I just think, like I told you, first day, that means in this many days is Hanukkah, and I have to go buy my candles and my presents and whatever. As people newly freed must henceforth be sustained by its own native resources if it is to achieve true national independence. If it is no longer to be a passive object of history, subservient to a dominant but alien culture, a liberated people must evolve and stress its own distinctive autonomous cultures. A lot of big words here, or not just, not taking the right pauses. devise its own structures of national existence, and forge its own institutions. One of the first desiderata is the establishment of a uniform calendar. Such an institution is a powerful instrument of societal, cultural, and religious cohesion. And so I put that in there because when I slowed down and read that slower, I was able to better, take it in. But the calendar allows Judaism to be elastic. It allows us to, like the moon, wax and wane and pay attention to, pay more attention to, not worry so much about, be careful about, because we want to make sure we keep our holidays. Like if we had no holidays that we needed to keep, which were inherently part of us as the Jewish people, as we went out into the other nations of the world, it's possible we wouldn't have. But because as we go about our life, and if you're sitting here, you care. So you do care when Hanukkah is. You are not going to set up your menorah on the 24th of December this year. You're not. You're going to send it up on this 25th of Kislev, which this year I think is the 28th of November. That's like the one that and Rosh Hashanah are like the two holidays where you actually need your Jewish calendar because you need to know, right? But this needing to know, I said that two like the holidays that I think of. I don't think Shavuos is not Shavuos. Yeah, I don't think Shavuos is dragging you towards the Jewish calendar. But needing to know what Hanukkah is and what Rosh Hashanah is, you need that. You need that. Head cal. You type it in, or you need your Chabad calendar. You need something, right? I took a break from that joke. That's a joke. Okay. Anyway, it is that action of checking the calendar so that you get your holidays right, which has kept one of the things that has kept the Jewish people among so many other pieces that we talk about, the elasticity of the Jewish people to be able to survive, which in Hebrew I would call Torah Chaim, a living Torah, meaning that this Torah did not die and it did not become irrelevant, and it's constantly not being changed, just being learned how to live with among modern times. And our forefathers without the right foremothers, our ancestors have had to deal with this since the first exile. That was the first one during the times of Persia, times of Purim. So I just wanted to say that the last thing I will leave this on, because I really wanted to talk about Rosh Hodesh, because we had Rosh Hodesh, and then we can get back to this book, is that we have it coming up, is that that it's much more than just knowing what the days are. It's realizing that this is a mitzvah, the first mitzvah was given to us. It helps us create us. Oh, I didn't turn that off. All right, it's my brother. We can turn off the recording now. Yes.
And if it's not something that you pay attention to, now you know a little more, you can think about it. Like that's the goal of this class.